of Pakistan کی اس سے پہلے کی رپورٹ تھی and that was about the title was, if I recall correctly, Caught in the Web, and that was about how the Pakistani migrant workers in Saudi Arabia particularly have fallen on the wrong side of the law, and whereas they were actually the victims, they were treated as criminals. اور کوئی ان کا پرسان نہ تھا. میں سعودی عرب کے جیل کو وزٹ بھی کر چکا ہوں. میں نے سعودی عرب میں جو پاکستانی جیل میں تھے ان سے ملاقاتیں بھی کی ہیں. اور فار اے بریف وائل, فار اے کپل آف آورز, آئی آلسو واز لاکڈ اپ ان سعودی جیل. سو میرا پرسپیکٹو ذرا جو ہے وہ ایک یونیک پرسپیکٹو ہے. آپ نے سارا بلال نے جو اپنی رپورٹ میں کیس سٹڈیز کا میتھڈالوجی آپ کی بالکل ٹھیک ہے کہ سنی سنائی باتیں نہیں ہیں بلکہ ایکچول وکٹمز کو انٹرویو کیا ہے, سرکاری شعبوں کے افسران سے ملاقات کر کے انٹرویو کیا ہے, اوورسیز امپلائمنٹ کے جو بیوروز ہیں ان سے بات کی ہے. اٹس آل آتھینٹک. دیئرفور نو بڈی کین کویسچن کہ دس جسٹ ہیئرسے. اٹ از آل آتھینٹک بیسڈ آن فیکٹس. آپ نے سعودی عرب کا اس میں ذکر کیا ہے. دیر از آلسو اندر ہیروئن ٹیل ان سعودی عربیہ جو مجھے پارلیمان میں آ کے پتہ لگا. کسی نے ہم کو ای میل بھیجا اور کہا کہ میرے والد کو وہ عمرے کے لیے گیا تھا اور وہ وہاں لاپتہ ہو گیا ہے. یہ بات ہے 2016 کی, ناٹ ویری لانگ ایگو. اور وہ شخص لینڈ کرتا ہے سعودی عرب میں 20 اگست کو, اینڈ ہی گوز ٹو دا ہوٹل, وہاں ہوتا ہے. نیکسٹ ڈے دیٹ پرسن ڈس اپیئرز. ہی از این اولڈ مین, وہ ڈس اپیئر ہو جاتا ہے. شکایت ہوتی ہے اس کی پاکستانی ایمبیسی سے. ایمبیسی رپورٹس ٹو دا سعودی گورنمنٹ. Now what I am saying is exactly what has been revealed to us and is on the record of the parliamentary proceedings. So this is not a hearsay. آ جائے گا. رات کو اس کو واپس لے آئے, ہوٹل میں آیا, and the next day he disappeared. He was not traceable. ہم نے as members of parliament and members of the foreign affairs committee ہم نے پوچھا کہ ہم کو بتایا جائے کہ کیا ہوا. Where is the person? تو جواب جو آتا تھا وہ یہ ہوتا تھا کہ سعودی عرب کی حکومت نے تمام اشتہارات بھی دے دیے ہیں, ہسپتالوں کو وزٹ کیا ہے اور مورگس کو وزٹ کیا ہے کہ ہاں ڈیڈ باڈیز ہوں, اور وہاں پر اس شخص کی کوئی معلومات نہیں ملی. However, efforts are going on. ہم نے اس وقت وزیر خارجہ صاحب سرتاج عزیز صاحب تھے. ہم نے کہا جی کہ آپ ان سے پوچھیں کہ یہ جو اطلاع ہے کہ اس کی پولیس والے کے ساتھ آلٹرکیشن ہوئی تھی, دس شوڈ بی دا اسٹارٹنگ پوائنٹ. چنانچہ انہوں نے سعودی ایمبیسڈر کو خط لکھا. پہلے خط نہیں لکھا گیا کیونکہ کہا کہ وہ چھوٹے کہ بھائی آپ اس پولیس والے سے پوچھیں جس کے ساتھ اس کی آلٹرکیشن ہوئی تھی. اٹ واز ناٹ ریسپونڈیڈ ٹو. پاکستان wrote a formal letter to the Saudi authorities, کیونکہ ہم نے کہا کہ اگر اسٹارٹنگ پوائنٹ یہ ہو کہ پاکستانی پولیس اتھارٹیز کو پرمیشن دینے کے لیے گورنمنٹ آف پاکستان شوڈ اپروچ سعودی عربیہ. اٹ واز آلسو ناٹ گیون. جو عمرے کے لیے گیا تھا اور جس کی شکایت اس کے بیٹے نے کی جو چارسدہ کا رہنے والا تھا, اور وہ اب بھی کبھی سے ہوتی ہیں. If they fall on the wrong side of the law, ان کے ساتھ کیا ہوتا ہے. If they die in the course of duty, what happens? How the dead bodies are repatriated. A host of issues. And all that I think, جس طرح سارا نے کہا کہ اس وقت کوئی کوآرڈینیشن نہیں ہے among the government. اپنے رپورٹ میں لکھی ساری درست ہیں. And every government in Pakistan, including my government, when our party was in the government, we always in this report and the conclusions that it has drawn, it is important for the political parties to include this in their manifestos. اس وقت میجورٹی آف پولیٹیکل پارٹیز کے مینیفیسٹوز میں یہ ایشو راڈار پر نہیں ہے. تو جسٹس پروجیکٹ آف پاکستان نے اس ایشو کو راڈار پر لیا ہے. اینڈ آئی ایم ریئلی سو ڈیلائٹڈ اینڈ سو ہیپی اباؤٹ دس. کچھ ریکمنڈیشنز رکھنا چاہتا ہوں آپ کے سامنے, اور ہو سکتا ہے کہ آپ ریکمنڈیشنز آپ کی رپورٹ میں بھی ہوں. جب ان کی ریکروٹمنٹ ہوتی ہے تو یہ جو اوورسیز امپلائمنٹ پروموٹرز ہیں, یہ کام حوالے کر دیتے ہیں سب کانٹریکٹر کو, سب ایجنٹ کو. اینڈ ایٹ دا لیول آف دا سب ایجنٹ the irregularities start taking place. پاکستان کا قانون کہتا ہے سب ایجنٹ کی اجازت نہیں ہے, but it continues. The problem is not with the law. The problem is with the non-implementation of the law. In this particular case, جس طرح آپ نے دیکھا ہے کہ آپ کا قانون کہتا ہے 2013 کا کہ دہشت گرد تنظیمیں کسی اور نام کے ساتھ ابھر کے نہیں آ سکتی, but we know 2013 کے بعد بھی دہشت گرد تنظیمیں اور ناموں کے ساتھ آ کر کام کر رہی تھی. So the issue in Pakistan is کہ laws are there, implementation of the laws. And here I would like to say that the parliament should not be blamed for this. The parliament should not be blamed because the parliament can only make laws. The parliamentarian cannot go and implement the law himself. It has to be done by the executive. اور اگر ایگزیکٹو امپلیمنٹ نہیں کرتا تو اس کی ذمہ داری پارلیمان پر نہیں ہے. ہاں, اس پرٹیکولر کیس میں اگرچہ کچھ لاز ہیں جو امپلیمنٹ نہیں ہو رہے, لیکن اور بھی ایریاز ایسے ہیں کہ جس میں لاز بننے چاہیے. مثلاً آپ دیکھیے کہ ہمارے پاس پاکستان میں اس طرح کا ڈیٹا بیس نہیں ہے کہ کتنے مائیگرنٹ ورکرز کے ساتھ سب ایجنٹ نے دھوکہ کیا. آپ کو کمپریہنسو ڈیٹا نہیں ملے گا. اس طرح کی فگر نہیں ہے کہ اگر سب ایجنٹ نے کسی مائیگرنٹ ورکر کو ڈرگ میول بنا کے بھیجا اور شکایت بھی کی گئی, اس میں کیا تحقیقات ہوئیں. یہ بھی ڈیٹا میں اویلیبل نہیں ہے. یہ جو ڈیٹا آپ کو ملا ہے کہ کتنے قیدی ہیں وہاں, یہ بھی پارلیمان میں سوال اٹھنے کے بعد اور وہاں کی حکومتوں سے پھر پوچھنے کے بعد یہ ڈیٹا سامنے آیا ہے. But as far as the things within Pakistan are concerned, the data available نہیں ہے. تو میں سمجھتا ہوں کہ یہ ڈیٹا اویلیبلٹی, if it requires making of a law, there should be a law to make the data available. ایک اور there is no transfer agreement, transfer of prisoners agreement. بعض کیسز میں ہو سکتا ہے کہ آپ ٹرانسفر آف ایگریمنٹ کریں تاکہ وہاں جو پرزنرز ہیں وہ اپنی باقی جو ٹرم ہے وہ یہاں پاکستانی جیل میں سرو کریں. دیر از نو ہارم ان دیٹ. ان فیکٹ اٹ ول ایلیویٹ دا پریشر. اور ان قیدیوں کو یہاں یہ سہولت ہوگی کہ وہ اپنے لواحقین کے ساتھ جیل قوانین کے مطابق مل سکیں گے. میں نے یہ بھی دیکھا وہاں, اور یہ مشکل مجھے بھی ایک دفعہ پیش آئی تھی کہ جب وہاں کسی سے بات ہو رہی ہوتی تو عربی زبان میں, اور جو ہمارا مائیگرنٹ ورکر ہے اس کو عربی نہیں آتی, اور بلکہ ایک دفعہ تو ایسا بھی ہوا کہ جو ٹرانسلیٹر ان مائی کیس واز ٹرانسلیٹنگ سم تھنگ, مجھے عربی نہیں آتی, بٹ آئی کوڈ سینس دیٹ ہی واز ناٹ کنویئنگ دا کریکٹ سینس. تو آئی سیڈ کہ یہ درست نہیں ہے. امیجن جو ان ایجوکیٹڈ پاکستانی ورکر ہے, جس کے پاس پیسہ نہیں ہے, جو غریب ہے, جسے کانسٹر ایکسیس اویلیبل نہیں ہے, اس کو آپ نے رحم و کرم پہ چھوڑ دیا, اور وہ ٹرانسلیٹر جو چاہے اپنی مرضی سے کہہ دے. The translator might actually translate his words in a manner which would lead to his indictment and punishment. تو ٹرانسلیٹر کی وہ نہیں ہے. سب سے بڑھ کر یہ ہے کہ ہم نے جو انٹرنیشنل کنونشن ہے آن دا پروٹیکشن آف دا رائٹس آف آل مائیگرنٹس ورکرز, اس پر ہم نے دستخط نہیں کیے. I think from this platform we should raise this voice کہ پاکستان should ratify the International Convention on the Protection of Rights of all migrant workers and members of their families. اور اس موقع سے فائدہ اٹھاتے ہوئے میں یہ بھی کہوں گا کہ پچھلے دنوں جو کراؤن پرنس محمد بن سلمان تشریف لائے تھے، انہوں نے وعدہ کیا تھا کہ میں 2000 کے قریب پاکستانی قیدیوں کو رہا کروں گا، اور ہمارے پرائم منسٹر صاحب اتنے متاثر ہوئے کہ انہوں نے کہا، درست کہا، کہ ہمارا سفیر سعودی عرب میں کراؤن پرنس محمد بن سلمان ہے۔ اس پلیٹ فارم کی وساطت سے میں اپنے سفیر کراؤن پرنس محمد بن سلمان سے گزارش کروں گا کہ اب تک جو آپ نے صرف 200 کے قریب چھوڑے ہیں، آپ اپنے وعدے پر عمل کرتے ہوئے آپ جو 2200 ہیں ان سب کو بھیج دیں، کیونکہ آپ نے وعدہ کیا تھا۔ فائنل کامنٹ دیٹ آئی وانٹ ٹو میک از مائی فائنل کامنٹ از کہ ہمارے گریونسز بڑے ہیں، ایشوز بہت زیادہ ہیں، مائیگرنٹ ورکرز کے ہم حق بجانب ہیں کہ ہم ان کی ریہیبلیٹیشن، ان کو انصاف دینے کے لیے آواز اٹھائیں۔ لیکن میری ایک گزارش ہے، یہاں سے آواز خواہ حکومت اٹھائے، خواہ کوئی سیاسی جماعت اٹھائے، یا خواہ آپ جیسے سول سوسائٹی کے انتہائی معتبر ممبران اٹھائیں، اس آواز میں کوئی وزن نہیں ہوگا جب خود آپ کے ملک کے اندر کرمنل جسٹس سسٹم بروکن ہوگا۔ اگر میں سعودی عرب سے گلہ کرتا ہوں، اور بجا گلہ کرتا ہوں، اگر سعودی عرب کا کوئی آدمی آ کے مجھے کہے کہ بابر صاحب تم کیا بات کر رہے ہو میرے ملک میں کرمنل جسٹس سسٹم کی، تمہارے اپنے ملک میں تو کرمنل جسٹس سسٹم اتنا بروکن ہے کہ 2 بھائیوں کو سزائے موت ہوتی ہے، سپریم کورٹ ان کو 12 سال بعد بری کرتا ہے، اور جب بری کا پروانہ جیل جاتا ہے تو معلوم ہوتا ہے کہ دونوں بھائیوں کو 1 سال پہلے سزا موت کی ہو چکی تھی۔ جب اس ملک میں، ایک ملک میں کرمنل جسٹس سسٹم اتنا بروکن ہو کہ آپ کے قبائلی علاقہ جات میں اور خیبر پختونخوا میں انٹرنمنٹ سینٹرز ہوں، اور میں چاہوں گا کہ یہ بات وہ لوگ سن لیں جن کو سننا چاہیے، اگر انٹرنمنٹ سینٹرز ہوں جو گوانٹانامو بے پریزن سے بھی ورس ہیں، اور جو ابو غریب پریزنز آف پاکستان بن گئے ہیں، اور جہاں پہ لواحقین کو ملنے کی اجازت نہیں ہے، اور جہاں ممبران پارلیمان بھی نہیں جا سکتے، تو سعودی عرب کا یا بحرین کا جو بھی شخص ہوگا وہ مجھے کہے گا، بابر صاحب بیفور یو ٹاک اباؤٹ مائی جیلز، لک ان ٹو یور اون، لک انورڈلی، واٹ آر دا انٹرنمنٹ سینٹرز، واٹ آر یو ڈوئنگ دیئر۔ تو میں سمجھتا ہوں کہ ہم یہ آواز اٹھائیں، تو اس آواز کے ساتھ ساتھ ہم اپنی حکومت سے بھی گزارش کریں اور مقتدر حلقوں سے بھی گزارش کریں کہ دیکھو، ہماری آواز میں اس وقت تک برکت نہیں ہوگی، وہ کوئی سنے گا نہیں جب تک ہم خود اپنے ہاؤس کو بھی درست نہ کریں۔ میں نے آپ لوگوں کا بڑا وقت لیا، باتیں کرنے کی بہت ہیں، سینہ ماں داغ داغ و جگر ماں پارا پارا۔ I want to keep on saying and speaking, but the time constraints are there. I would like to answer your questions if you have at the end of the discussion. لیکن ہمیں ایمانداری کے ساتھ اپنے گریبان میں جھانک کے دیکھنا ہوگا۔ ہمارے جتنے بھی مائیگرنٹ ورکرز ہیں باہر، ان کے لیے آواز اٹھاؤ، یقیناً اٹھاؤ، جس طرح آج اٹھائی جا رہی ہے، اور میں بھی آپ کے ساتھ دامے درمے سخن یہ آواز اٹھاؤں گا۔ لیکن یہ بھی خیال رہے کہ پاکستان کے اندر بھی تو ملینز مہاجرین ہیں، بنگلہ دیشیز ہیں، برمیز ہیں، افغانیز ہیں۔ We don't have a refugees law in Pakistan. وہ ریفیوجیز جن کو آج سے 40 سال پہلے افغانستان سے آئے تھے، اس وقت ہم نے ان کو ویلکم کیا، اس وقت کی حکومت نے کہا کہ وی ویلکم، ہم انصار ہیں، یہ مہاجر ہیں، اور اس وقت ہم نے کہا کہ یہ وہ لوگ ہیں جو ہماری جنگ لڑ رہے ہیں۔ آج انہی لوگوں کے بارے میں ہم کہہ رہے ہیں کہ یہ تو ہم سے جنگ لڑ رہے ہیں، یہ بموں کے دھماکے تو یہ کرتے ہیں۔ So we also have to look inwardly. What has happened? ہم اپنے مائیگرنٹ ورکرز کے لیے ہمیشہ آواز اٹھائیں گے، اٹھانی چاہیے، لیکن خود اپنے ملک کے اندر ان لوگوں کا भी ज़रा ख्याल रखें। और ये माइग्रेशन का सिलसिला अब चलेगा, ये रुकेगा नहीं। द वर्ल्ड इज़ चेंजिंग। ये जो मिडिल ईस्ट में जो हुआ और लोग माइग्रेट करके यूरोप जा रहे थे, ख़ुद पाकिस्तान के अंदर इंटरनल माइग्रेशन हो रही बिकॉज ऑफ क्लाइमेट चेंज इन बलूचिस्तान। माइग्रेशन नाउ इज़ ए रियलिटी ऑफ दिस डेकेड ऑफ द 21st सेंचुरी। इसलिए अगर माइग्रेशन रियलिटी है, रिफ्यूजीज़ रियलिटीज़ हैं, देन आई वुड अर्ज जस्टिस प्रोजेक्ट ऑफ पाकिस्तान कि आप इस पे एक और कम्प्रिहेंसिव स्टडी करें, विच शुड इनकम्पस ऑल द रिफ्यूजीज़ इन पाकिस्तान as well as the migrant workers of Pakistan in the Middle Eastern countries. Ladies and gentlemen, I have taken a lot of your time. I believe I have dragged you through a emotional and difficult subject, but I hope that in the process I might have sown the seeds of some thought, which if you think over it, might develop into something of value. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Farzullah Babar, for sharing your critical insights and experiences. I have to say that I cannot agree more that while it is important to raise our voice for the Pakistani migrant workers so that our migrant workers do not end up in jail overseas in the first place. And so now I invite Mustafa Qadri to deliver a presentation on this report.
Honor to have you here. I also apologize that I'll be speaking in English to you, not Urdu. But very keen to talk to you about the issues that we've covered. Thank you also to Senator Babar for that very powerful speech, to all the other distinguished guests and all of you who have come here today. To first talk about this important issue, I really want to reflect on a few personal notes. I am myself the product of migration. My family is from Pakistan. My father was a doctor on a Umrah ship that traveled to Saudi Arabia over a long period of time, and he eventually settled in a very different country with very little money in his hands. His story was not very different to the stories that we documented in our report. And if you think about yourselves, if you think about where you come from, whatever part of this country, whatever part of the world, whatever gender or identity or your way of living, there's one thing that we all share in common, and that is the thirst to better yourself, the thirst to have a better life for yourself and your family, to hopefully work hard and inshallah make something better for your children. And what we have documented in this report is really sadly only a small snapshot of what 10 people and what they reflect were trying to do, which all of us try to do, and in seeking a better life for themselves and their families, got trapped in a really vicious cycle of exploitation that sadly resulted in them being sentenced to death in Saudi Arabia. And of the 10 cases that we've documented, 8 of those people have already been executed. And that's a really key thing for us to really think about. We're talking about ordinary people, but though most of the cases that we've documented are of people who are of very humble origins, generally from outside the main cities of Pakistan. In fact, their lives aren't very different to our own. It's also important to stress, and we tried to do this in our report, that whilst the problems are very grave, there are some very serious failings in terms of the labour migration system, that there are also chances to really reform this system. And as much as the problem is very significant, there are some very positive green shoots there. As Senator Babar mentioned, we have the current government that came to an agreement with the Saudi government to release 2,000 or so prisoners from Saudi Arabia. What this demonstrates is that with political will, things can change. And what I'd encourage and what we encourage through this report is to not just be taken down by the very sober cases that we have documented, but hopefully be energized by the very constructive, very concrete recommendations that we have suggested. And we really encourage an engagement with all of you here, whether you're government, whether you're INGOs, your business community, or just ordinary Pakistani citizens, to hear from you what you think can be done. Now, I know a lot of time has been spent on presentations. Sarah and Senator Barber are a very tough act to follow, so I won't repeat many of the things that they've talked about. But just to very briefly talk about the report. Like I mentioned, it's based on interviews with 10 victims of exploitation in the recruitment process. 8 of those people were subsequently executed, their relatives. Interviews with representatives of registered recruitment agencies, which are known as OEPs. Interviews with government officials, experts, and other people. We're very thankful to the government officials and the recruitment agency representatives, the sub-agents who spoke to us, often very openly about the issues that they're facing. And we think that's a really key step, because I think honesty about the failings is really not about naming and shaming. It's really about being honest about what are the problems so that together we can find a solution. And so this report is mostly based on that, and we thank all those people for that. I'd also like to thank in particular Sarah Bilal and JPP, Mohammad Usman, who's here, and Rumsha Shazad, who can't be with us today, for really getting the ball rolling, and of course for being the people here in Pakistan who do this work. My organization, Equidem, is a labor migration organization. We do a lot of work in the Gulf with organizations like the ILO, businesses, trade unions. We do a lot of work in other South Asian countries and also in sub-Saharan African countries around labor migration. And I can tell you that the problems you face in Pakistan are not unique to the country. Having said that, I do sense in this country that the debate is a bit more young, and as much as that suggests that there's more work to be done, it also means, I think, that in fact there are lots of opportunities here that I would say that other places haven't got anymore. So I think that's a very positive thing. In this report, we look at the recruitment system, and we demonstrate that actually in many ways the system is a good one. But we also talk about the fact that the system is not appropriately enforced, and there are gaps in that system, and we talk about what those failings are. We talk about some really heartbreaking cases and demonstrate that for so many workers, when they're in a situation when they're compelled to smuggle drugs, it really is against their will. And so what we also document is that when they're forced to smuggle drugs and inevitably get caught in places like Saudi Arabia, they are instantaneously criminalized. They receive a mandatory death sentence for the crime of smuggling drugs or other drug-related offenses. And both the local authorities and Pakistani consular officials effectively wash their hands clean of the situation. The people are treated as criminals, and they're very, very quickly, if not executed, put into death row and are in very, very shocking conditions. Now, there's a whole range of things that have already been talked about. Sarah mentioned that there are so many Pakistanis overseas in jail. Many of these are victims of this sort of a situation. In Saudi Arabia alone, over 100 Pakistanis have been executed for drug-related offences. Many of those are like the people that we've documented. And of course, the other thing is that Pakistani migrant workers are a critical part of the Pakistani economy. So quite apart from the ethical and the human rights obligations of Pakistan to deal with this issue, there's also a practical side to this. And that is that these hard-working men and women are really one of the backbones of the economy. And as you know much better than I do, at a time when the Pakistani economy is going through a challenge, I would argue, whether you're a government or you are a business owner in the business community, really now is the time to really be addressing these issues. Now, some of the issues that we have encountered in our report is that low-wage workers come from disadvantaged backgrounds. They will often have very little knowledge of the recruitment process. In the cases that we documented, they had no past criminal record. They get trapped in a very organized and often sophisticated system of smuggling and trafficking. And they get very limited access to consular support and have very limited contact to families overseas. Now, as I noted, the recruitment system in Pakistan is itself not necessarily a bad one. One of the challenges that the system faces is the volume of workers that are traveling overseas. What that means is that registered recruitment agencies, OEPs, are not themselves able to place workers with jobs in the Gulf. That means that there's a high reliance on what are known as sub-agents. And it is in this space between the recruitment agencies, the job orders from the Gulf, and the sourcing of workers from the many different parts of this very vast country that a whole range of criminal behaviours occurs. Speaking of being honest, I think we also have to recognise that for the government, this is a really big task. It's a challenging task to regulate this space. And that's a really important thing to look at. We've mentioned in our recommendations the need to really enforce existing laws, but we've been mostly silent on the issue of whether sub-agents should be just wholesale prosecuted or whether they should be captured in the system. I think that's a really open-ended issue, but the point is that there are huge gaps in the system. Partially this is a design issue in the way the laws have been designed, but partially it's a scale issue. So it's a very huge issue, and we have to think about a long-term solution. The other issues are around the monitoring and enforcement side. The relevant authorities simply do not monitor the system adequately enough, and there's a lack of coordination between different authorities. We've put in a bit of a flowchart of how the existing system operates, and we thought that'd be quite useful to get a bearing of how it operates. And we talk about some of the failings that lead to exploitation. Now, I mentioned gaps. Amongst those gaps, there are three key areas. There are others, but we felt there are three key areas in the cases that we documented. One is the practice of illegal trading of Azad visas, free visas. Now, many workers actually prefer these because they see that there's some flexibility that they get with these. But one of the issues with this is that whilst the visa itself is a lawful visa to the extent it's a standard sponsorship-linked visa in a Gulf country, the problem is that the procedure for monitoring it is basically non-existent. And so on one side, you have a whole range of actors acting illegally, acting beyond the reach of the law, working with vulnerable workers. At the same time, when the government wants to investigate, wants to monitor, it becomes a real minefield actually just tracing how workers have actually got through that system. And in fact, even in our research, we found that a huge challenge is just to understand who are these nameless people that workers met when they got locked up in a room somewhere, then they get transferred to somewhere else. So that's a real key issue with the free visa. As I mentioned before, inadequate enforcement of, I did not mention before, the inadequate enforcement of pre-departure briefings that we think are a really key part of the solution, which is ensuring that workers, as they're required to under law, are adequately briefed before they go overseas.
People on this panel don't even require an introduction. So I want to get straight into the questions that we want to ask. First of all, I would like to ask Madam Abbas, your government is in power, and we have seen the Prime Minister really elective breakdown because it was only a dream that we could have as human rights defenders. Fill those gaps, or what kind of political will exists vis-a-vis overseas Pakistani countries?
Thank you. Is it working?
Yes, I think it's speaking up. Try saying.
Yeah, I feel more comfortable with this. So thank you very much, Justice Project. I have a special association with her in many ways as a person. And of course, thinking that I, my humble self, would be able to raise a hue and cry about it. But she actually inspired all of us. And I remember that incident when those two life sentence prisoners were there. And I talked to my chairman at that time. We were in the opposition. And, you know, we all tweeted about it. We all requested the government. In the speeches that he made, he said what a justice system this is, that you put a prisoner for 20 years into this mess. And I completely agree with Senator Faratullah Babar that within our system also, there is so much injustice that after 20 years, you discover when he's, in any case, about to die, that he didn't commit the crime. So she was the one who, constantly talked about it. And normally obviously, when people approach us, even in the opposition, it takes time. You talk to your chairman and you say, okay, there's this girl pestering me by the name of Sarah, and she's constantly saying, talk about it. And normally chairmen say, come off it, there's so many other million issues. But the minute I used to talk to the then chairman, Imran Khan, he used to give it a lot of importance because it's something very close to his heart. So thank you, Sarah, for continuing this struggle. And now that we are in the hem of affairs, I think our responsibility is even more. And I also agree with Senator Babar that there's been criminal negligence by every successive government, and he's been very gracious about it because his party was in the government for 3 times, and then the other party's been in government for as many times, and somehow we've never really heard anything on this as far as manifestos, agendas, speeches is concerned. So leave aside doing anything about it. But the couple of things that I'd like to tell you in this is that I think leave aside as a government, I think as a society, our paradigm is that if anybody's in jail, he's dead. And that stigma that he's jailed is enough for us to dismiss him, degrade him, and completely feel that he's less than human. So that stigma and that image remains in our mind, and that's why it never comes in our priorities. And I have come across, in my own family, these instances which you were talking about. I had a cousin, and he went abroad, and for whatever, we don't even know whether it was a crime or not, but he was jailed. And this was in Saudi Arabia. And I remember the agony of my aunt for 15 years. She could not even find out what he was jailed for. She became a neurotic psycho patient who would hallucinate about her son coming back. And she was shunned by the society because she was supposed to be mad. And the socio-cultural impact it has, the separation anxiety it causes, the psychological dehumanization it brings about is so deep and far-rooted and goes on for generations that it is impossible to even imagine what a person goes through. And even being a first cousin, we could not do anything about it. So I think as a government, I'll first of all commend the report. I think we need to work together very well. I still remember, Sarah, we were in government, I think not even a month old, and you approached me to approach Dr. Shirin Mazari on Iranian prisoners. At that time, everybody was congratulating us on coming in the government, and the Iranian foreign minister was coming in to congratulate the prime minister. And as usual, Sarah sent a message that, okay, so can you talk about the Pakistani prisoners in Iran? And so I said yes, and I talked to Shirin Mazari about it, and she sent me a delighted message that, guess what, Shirin Mazari has asked us for details, and she's actually talked to them about it. So again, her passion and her inspiration for us, I'd like to mention 2-3 things that the government has done in its 8 months. It's minimal. I think we need to do much more, and we need to do it collectively. But some of the things that we've already done, as you mentioned about the recruitment, sub-agents, these are the ones who are the big looters, big money into it. And sub-agents are illegal. But nobody has taken an action on them in the previous governments. All sub-agent contracts by our government have been cancelled. So completely cancelled. And that has happened the first time. Second part, What we've done is that in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we've said, okay, fine, guys, you want to come in as contractors, it has to be digitalized so that NADRA data, so that we can trace them down. Anybody who wants to be sent abroad through the Ministry of Overseas Pakistanis and Ministry of Foreign Affairs will have to have a printing of identity, will have to be digitalized, give their information so that they can be traced forever. So that's something that we've done, and we will be further strengthening it based on your recommendations as well. Another thing that we have sort of started off is, of course, that everything starts from the top. So whenever I'm working with the Prime Minister's visit, because I'm in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Foreign Minister's visit, in the agenda of talks, let me tell you very clearly, in the top 3 priorities in the agenda of communication and strategic dialogue, not operational dialogue, comes in Pakistani prisoners over there. And example of that, yes, you mentioned Saudi Arabia, and Senator Babar very rightly pointed out that only 200 have arrived. There are 3,000 to come back. There are some logistical considerations also, because even if we ask PIA to do nothing else but to bring them back, it would not be possible to do that in the next 6 months. They come in lots. Obviously, there is logistics involved, cost involved, laws involved, but let me assure you that they will come back. That's my news for you. Second thing which I'd like to inform you is about Iran, because the Prime Minister was in Iran yesterday and day before yesterday, and Dr. Shirin Mazari was also there. So Iran, we have about 189 prisoners over there on some very serious offenses, some not so. But there are people who were drug peddlers from Pakistan. Previously, Iran used to have this law that drug peddlers were given death penalty. Recently, they've changed the law. So it's not death penalty, it's imprisonment. Now, Dr. Shirin Mazari, before she went, took the briefing from our wonderful project, Justice Project of Pakistan, on this whole thing. She has gone over there, negotiated with them, and 26 prisoners who were on death penalty, but now according to this law, they will have life imprisonment, are going to be coming back to Pakistan and serving their imprisonment over here.
Wow. I have no idea.
And the credit goes to all of you. And you see, prisoner exchange, I'm very glad that Senator Babar brought that up. Prisoner exchange is very important. And again, what has happened is that the prisoner exchange has been put into the back burner. I mean, I was surprised, and I haven't found out what has happened, that in 2016 or 17, we had a PTA, prisoners exchange agreement with UAE. And guess who cancelled it? Our government cancelled it. So I don't know why it happened, but we have to renew these agreements, and we have to go back to these agreements with many countries, Saudi Arabia especially, because we have about 11,000 prisoners all over in the world. Almost 60% of them are in Saudi Arabia. So that's a very big focus for us over there. So yes, I would not call this a very big achievement. I would call this a beginning. I would call this a start. But one thing that I can tell you is that if Sara's passion can inspire so many over here, I tell you, the Prime Minister's passion in this regard, and वो कहते हैं जिसके साथ बीती होती है उसको पता होता है, और शायद चूँकि in my own family I have seen a whole family being destroyed by indifference and criminal negligence at so many levels. I think I can give my personal commitment and my Prime Minister's commitment that this particular aspect, legally and otherwise, will be in the top agenda of our government. And I would like you to help us draw legislations which help you, and I would like you to advise us on how to make laws and also implementation, which Senator Barber very rightly pointed out, that even that is the responsibility of the government. We can't simply just say that I'm a parliamentarian and I made a law and it's lying somewhere in the cupboard or archives of the library, and if it hasn't been implemented, that's it. I think as parliamentarians, we do make the laws, but we need to work with the civil society and with the media to make sure that implementation of these laws can happen, because they're Pakistanis and they're human beings. And if you throw them abroad and treat them as not one of you, then you are not a Pakistani and you are not a human being. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I have to say that was not the answer that I was expecting, and so I'm very, once again, the current government. Madam Pelijo, I would like to ask, you're the ranking senator and member of the Committee on Overseas Pakistanis and Human Resource Development. I know that the committee has been quite active, and you've done some incredible work. Just keeping in mind some of the findings of the report, do you think that there is the committee would be looking at improving the regulatory system that right now governs the export of migrant workers? What are the things that the committee, by your standards, should be focusing on and will be focusing on going forward?
Thank you, Sarah. First of all, I would like to thank very thought-provoking session. I must say, I was coming directly from Salman airport. I'm a member of overseas, Senate Extended Committee for Overseas Pakistanis, and I'm also a member of Pak-Saudi Parliamentary Friendship Group. So obviously there are so many things we can do in this regard. Yes, true that we've been raising different issues regarding business, especially in Saudi Arabia and Middle East. And we have been submitting our suggestion and recommendation. I hope that your government, as Anjali said, I really appreciate her views. Regardless of any, apart from of any, regardless of any political affiliations, we must appreciate government's policies wherever we see and can feel that they are up to something and they can bring about some positive changes in our system. And I also would like to endorse and second Senator Farooq Baba's views, and especially when he said that and I know I have seen the way he's been raising different issues. When he was talking about this Saudi man, disappeared, all of a sudden he disappeared, and there was, without any clue. And when we were discussing this thing, I was also in that meeting, and we tried to follow that matter, because I was also a member of Foreign Affairs Committee at that time. And we really missed Farooq Baba Sahab. So especially when he said that we need to work on a criminal justice system also. There are so many, bills and amendments, especially if I look at his, efforts, the way he had been working on different legislations. That must be passed from the parliament, and we must, work on it. And it's not that, he's not part of parliament, so this should be, vested. In our committee, we've been raising this business issue again and again, and I think today I feel that Mr. Zulfi Bukhari should have been here. Though I keep criticizing his, we agree to disagree. There are so many different aspects of this policy, but when he says, or when I can see the will and dil, or what this government intends to do, and I can feel that they are serious about it, then we appreciate him. But most of the time, we always keep fighting and keep arguing whenever it comes to a committee. but it's matter of as I said that we are working this legislation. We have started working on it, but as Anjali said, that if MNAs or his government they initiate, or if they start working on that particular legislation, we will support them, we'll second them. So it's not that we always argue, we always disagree. It is something very important, and especially Mr. Mustafa, he talked about Azad visas, and we have discussed that particular issue in our committee. And I also would like to share that when he said the strict checks on the so-called Azad visas, this is something which is very important. The first thing we need to do. And when I looked at this embassy officials rarely visit, it's been discussed in a committee again and again, and we kept saying and arguing that even in a foreign standing committee, that ambassadors or officials, they rarely visit business, or they don't take up different issues. So I think time has come when, if government is serious, true that previous government, they neglected or they ignored this particular problem or issue or matter. But as far as chairman is concerned, I can say that now, especially he's chairman of the Standing Committee on Human Rights. So he's really very serious. He's very sensitive about all these issues, and I'm sure the way he's been, telling us and informing our party that he intends to do so many things in this regard. I believe that in near future we can see that People's Party would like to bring about many changes and will support this legislation. And again, I would like to second Mr. Faradullah Baba's views, and as Mustafa also said, that we must ratify international laws, such as Migration for Employment Convention, 1949, and the International Convention on the Protection of the Rights of all migrant workers and members of their families. और जो आज families आई भी हुई हैं, our hearts really bleed like anything. हम आपका दर्द समझते हैं, आपका दुख समझते हैं, और यही वजह है कि हम इन कमेटीज़ में ऐसे ही नहीं बैठे. बाज़ दफ़ा झगड़े भी हो जाते हैं ऑफिशियल्स के साथ, दूसरे लोगों के साथ. हम चाहते हैं जो सीट पे बैठे हैं उसको हम सजाए, हिंदी में कहते सजायो करण. तो ये चीज़ें गवर्नमेंट का भी सर दर्द होना चाहिए, लेकिन अपोजिशन भी आपके उन हकूक़ का जो है वो उसकी पासदारी करेगी. उस चीज़ को हम उठाएंगे, चाहे मुख्तलिफ ममालिक में वो बिजनेस हो, उनकी अमवात का मसला हो. अभी भी जो सऊदी के साथ बिजनेस का मामला उठाया गया है, प्राइम मिनिस्टर से पहले हमारी कमेटी ने मुसलसल उसको उठाया था, और बड़ी झड़पें भी हुई थी कमेटी में, जुल्फी बुखारी साहब, लेकिन फिर हम एक पेज पर भी आ गए थे. तो हम अगर गवर्नमेंट अपोजिशन साथ मिलकर कोई चीज़ करेगी तो मेरे ख्याल में, मैं नहीं समझती कोई लूप होल, कोई ग्रे एरिया. ऑब्वियसली आई मीन देयर आर सो मेनी थिंग्स येट टू बी डन, लेकिन अगर मैंने कहा, जैसे कहा कि अगर दिल है और विल है, वो पॉलिटिकल विल जो है उस ज़रूरी होती है. और अभी लेजिस्लेशन भी करनी है, लेकिन वी नीड टू इम्प्लीमेंट, गेट दिस पॉलिसीज इम्प्लीमेंटेड, जो अभी तक है हमारे पास, वो अभी तक जो इम्प्लीमेंटेशन के लिए झांक रही है, देख रही हैं, अभी तक कुछ नहीं हुआ है. तो आपकी सुनवाई वो एक तरह से हुई है, दैट्स व्हाई यू आर हियर. लेकिन उसको रिजल्ट ओरिएंटेड किस तरह बनाएंगे, इट विल टेक सम टाइम. लेकिन यहाँ मुख्तलिफ फोरम्स हैं, फिर भी एग्जेक्टिव का वो दर्द सर या उसकी आखिरी जिम्मेदारी बनती है. लेकिन जो पार्लियामेंट है वो अपोजिशन, और जैसे सेनेट में हम मेजॉरिटी में हैं, हम बात करते हैं, धड़ल्ले से बात करते हैं, अपना राइट समझते हैं, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का हम हिस्सा हैं. तो लेकिन जो पॉलिसीज़ की इम्प्लीमेंटेशन है, अगर जुल्फी बुखारी साहब या अंदलीब कहती हैं कि ये चीज़ें हमारी नज़र में हैं, या हम सऊदी फ्रेंडशिप ग्रुप के भी हम मैं मेंबर हूँ, जिससे हम ये चीज़ आस्ते आस्ते उठा रहे हैं. मैं आई एम आल्सो चेयरपर्सन ऑफ स्टैंडिंग कमेटी फॉर पार्लियामेंट्री अफेयर्स. हालांकि इलेक्शन कमीशन मेरा डोमेन है, उसको मैं देख रही हूँ, रिव्यू कर रही हूँ, या जो ई वोटिंग है, ये सारी चीज़ें बहुत अरसे के बाद ये इस तरह हम एक्सरसाइज में जा रहे हैं. लेकिन वहाँ भी हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं, विल ट्राई टू रेज दीज थिंग्स इन दैट कमेटी आल्सो, कि जो रेलेवेंट हैं, जो उसको जुड़ी हुई हैं. तो
Forces of the world would be able to, effectively deal with them, which is why having an underpinning policy that regulates or gives an idea to the missions abroad on how to engage, when to engage, how to maximize resources is really critical. That is something that we've been working on, and we've actually written one. It's just a draft for the government to consider. It would be
Absolutely. Welcome for that. I think बहुत आपने सही कहा. आई थिंक शशि ने बिल्कुल याद कराया हमें कि उर्दू भी हमें बोलनी चाहिए. सो थैंक यू फॉर रिमाइंडिंग. ये जो पॉलिसी आप कह रही है कि बहुत इसेंशियल है. यू आर एब्सोल्युटली राइट. वहाँ जो मिशंस के अंदर लोग बैठे होते हैं, जो मतलब अगर आप 189 प्रिजनर्स ईरान की बात कर रही हैं, क्योंकि थोड़ा नंबर है, बड़ा मुश्किल है कि काउंसलर एक्सेस वहाँ देना, क्योंकि स्पेशलिस्ट चाहिए आपको, उनके लॉज को समझने वाले, पैसे देने होते हैं वकीलों को, वो सारा कुछ करना होता है. इट बी वेरी हेल्पफुल. आप ज़रूर हमसे शेयर करें एंड वील टेक ऑल द गुड थिंग्स आउट ऑफ इट. और जैसे शशि ने कहा, आप लोग जो है एक चीज़ आप फिक्र ना करें. आपकी फिक्र जो है वो प्राइम मिनिस्टर के दिल में है, और वो कभी भी, मैं आपको, और ये आज की बात नहीं है, वो हमें मतलब जब से मैं हूँ तब से ही वो ये किस्से सुनाते हैं कि मैं गया, मैं ओवरसीज़ पाकिस्तानी से मिला और वो मुझे बता रहा था कि जी मैं इतने सालों से अपने बच्चों से नहीं मिला. तो वो उनके दिल में है और पॉलिटिकल विल है. हाँ, हमें मदद की ज़रूरत है, ऑपोजिशन की भी, ऐसे लोगों की भी जो हमें हेल्प करें हमारी पॉलिसीज़ को बेहतर बनाने की, ताकि आप लोगों के दुख दर्द में मदावा हो सके. तो ये हमारी आपसे एक प्रॉमिस है कि इस पर ज़रूर काम करें.
And also the powerful story of your relative shows that, in fact, this affects all of us. None of us is divorced from this. So that's a really good question. I think the first thing to say is that let's divide it between the criminal justice issue, the consular issue of Pakistanis when they get caught overseas, from the labour migration aspect of it. Now, based on some independent research done, not by us, but by others, Pakistanis in Asia generally actually pay the largest amount of fees in Asia for recruitment, followed closely by Bangladeshis, but that in itself is quite a shocking statistic. The other thing is that we're seeing now a higher demand generally of Pakistanis, especially to the Gulf, so low-wage workers. You know, we saw in Qatar, it's a market not really much exploited by Pakistan, where there's been orders for, up to 2,000 or more Pakistanis going there. Saudi is well known, other countries as well. Pakistanis are, the Gulf states are incredibly reliant on Pakistani nationals. If you go to the UAE, Qatar, it's not unusual to speak to a Pakistani police officer, that sort of thing. So whilst the regime is a bit behind compared with, say, Nepal, India, Bangladesh, in fact, the de facto relationship is already there. What is happening with the international level conversation is that it's not anymore just about government to government, it's also about the business community. And what we're finding, because we work with businesses, often quite large businesses, construction businesses, service industry businesses, investors, is they're asking more questions about where are your workers from? Have they paid recruitment fees? Are they being paid on time? What are their conditions like? And I do think there will come a time when increasingly large employers are going to be avoiding Pakistan if we don't get it right. So that's why I said before that there's the ethical, moral imperative. That's number one. As Pakistanis, that's what we really care about. But, this is a time when we have to be attracting greater foreign investment in the country. And a key part of it, I would argue, is looking at this side as well. The good thing is that with the ILO, with the IOM, with a number of industry-led initiatives, one of the biggest focuses at the moment is on responsible recruitment. The ILO is basically in the final process of defining responsible recruitment. That's, I think, going to provide some help in terms of understanding. And I would also be saying, looking at the industries where Pakistanis operate, so the construction sector in the UAE, the security sector around the world, bring them into the conversation. Because what that does is, it makes it not just a conversation about human rights and the ethical side, although that's important. It makes it about the business aspect to it. And what you see with places like the Philippines and a handful of countries which source a lot of low-wage workers is that the ones which have a relatively good system, those workers actually end up getting paid more in general. So in fact, it's a way of skilling up your workers because they're more aware of their rights, they're more in demand, and you become a much more attractive place. I'm not trying to sound like a businessman, but you look like a more attractive place to do business because your workers are being treated better. So I think those are the kinds of things. I do emphasize what I'm saying is not as much a matter of the heart as what the powerful things that my panelists have said. But as much as it's a huge challenge, I do see incredible opportunities there to really improve things.
The heart without the mind is useless.
Yeah.
So use
Thank
the
you
mind.
so much for that. That was really helpful.